Hi everybody. So we're just waiting for William Bird to join. He is joining now, and then we'll get going. So thank you so much for being here, and particularly just before uh, another delicious long weekend. So it's good you're here. I see William. We see William joining now. So hello William. How are you?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Sorry
can
about that, everyone.
perfectly.
It's my device has a issue with Teams. I'm very pleased I don't need my thing. Good
No,
morning, everyone. Sorry.
lovely to see you. Good. So I can see everyone joining. Yeah, I think we can literally get started now. We are going to be recording this session, William.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if you've got a presentation or if you're going to just chat directly to us. Either is good.
Now,
Happy with.
I do have a presentation just to run through a few of the things.
Perfect.
So,
Just to, like, I don't think William really needs any introduction. I think everybody knows William. He's done the most amazing work with Media Monitoring Africa now, Moxie. In fact, interestingly, we're asking him particularly to look at election stuff, and that is actually how Moxie and previously Media Monitoring Africa and Media Monitoring Project before that did, it started off its life, William, if I'm correct, doing
yep.
this incredible elections work. And then, of course, you branched out into a whole lot of other really, really important areas, particularly around media tech, which I think has been so interesting. Information integrity issues. There's just a whole host. And when you actually present today, I'm sure you're going to be touching on all the kind of different work that you do.
Yep.
And I think it's particularly exciting now that you are realigning your work and call, with this new name, new branding, which really kind of makes sense in terms of actually encompassing all the work that you do. And I also need to say that I am very lucky to be a board member of Moxie, which is very exciting.
We're very lucky to have you.
So William, over to you. Without further
Okay,
ado,
thanks.
please go ahead. Thanks everyone
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Right. So, I'm just going to start sharing. I'm hoping you can see this now.
We can.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank
Okay,
you.
cool. So if people have questions, just put up your hand. I'm going to try and cover a fair bit in this session because there's quite a lot going on, and I think there are some quite exciting opportunities just before. So one or two disclaimers. Many of the things I'm going to talk about are things that we are hoping to do, which is to say they aren't yet a reality. We are hoping they will become a reality when we get some of our funding confirmed. But these are our plans for the elections, and AIP, I think, and its members have a very critical role to play, especially in a local government election. Now, what we've tended to see has been uh, media coverage over election periods tends to mirror very much that sort of coverage that occurs in national elections, which is to say that it's dominated by the political parties' own narratives and own agendas. So the parties are the ones that are determining.
William, you sometimes breaking up a little bit. I'm not sure why. And maybe it's just me.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to try and plug in some ear things and see if a mic thing and see
Yeah,
if that fixes it.
thanks.
Give me one sec. Okay, let's see if this is any better. You hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I,
let's
I
hope
hope
this is
that
better.
everyone else is also fine. Yeah, that sounds better to me. Thanks.
Okay, so many of the the way that we cover national elections tends to be quite similar to the way that we cover local elections, and of course that's very unfortunate. We're also existing in an environment where media viability, sustainability, although for your members, I mean, viability and sustainability is a perpetual struggle just for existence. And I think we may have some uh, answers to some of these things given where the world is going and what we're doing. So I'm hoping we'll address some of these things. So Moxie, we are, as a new Moxie Africa, just so that we can explain who we are, we are now striving for accessible, accountable, transparent information ecosystem that we can trust. If people are keen on seeing this, I can share it. Our new areas that we are focusing on, or pillars,
William, I'm
focus
just
on.
wondering whether you shouldn't just turn off your camera because you're
Ah,
still breaking up a little bit. Sorry.
okay. Is this any better? I mean, I shouldn't because I'm at the office where we're meant to have fairly good Wi-Fi. But
Yeah,
so,
that seems better. Sorry.
okay.
Thanks.
So we look at instilling information integrity, promoting safety, and that's around establishing safe spaces for media, journalists, etc. Open information, this is around universal, meaningful access to diverse and credible sources of information. And obviously, the kind of work that AIP members do falls firmly within many of these buckets. And then we look at ensuring accountability and empowering the public. So, on to the election stuff. I'm going to go through 5 points. I've already gone through the first. I should have moved the slide up. I'm sorry. I'm going to talk about PI, which is the thing that was included in the invitation, which is the Partnership on Information Integrity in Elections, that I hope you'll all join. It doesn't cost you anything to join. There are lots of benefits for it, and I'm thinking it's going to be really cool. Then I'm going to talk about some of the elections plans that we've got. And then I'm going to show you something that I hope will be very useful for you particularly, and which is we call it U, which is an awkward acronym, which is the Elections Watch ecosystem. And then we're going to look at something around micropayments and a hint of what's to come. So here's Pi. At the moment, I've only included those 3 logos because those are the ones that have been responsible for its initiation. But obviously, as we get more and more members, we've already got over 20. We'll obviously reflect all of those who are part of it. That's a QR code. If you go there, it'll take you to the page. You can fill in the form and you can sign on to the Partnership on Information Integrity. But just going into what it is, whoopsie, sorry. One of the reason we established this is that in the 2024 general elections, the work that we did, we found that there were 4 sort of broad categories of disinformation, which was false information on electoral processes. So that was things about how the elections work, particularly, for example, saying you must take your own pen, because the pens that the IEC are providing have invisible ink or disappearing ink. The idea being that theoretically, once you had voted, they'd then take the ballots out and then mark them for whichever party was theoretically trying to cheat the elections. Then there was false information on parties and candidates, so either spreading malicious rumors about particular people or the parties or what they were doing or had said or hadn't said, for example. Then false information in respect of the elections results. I'm sure you would have seen some of this, a lot of attacks against the IEC's results, the sort of post that we can expect to see again. We know it, we've seen the footage again. Often they recycle that same footage of ballot boxes being found in the veld, all that kind of nonsense. And then false information deliberately intended to undermine the IEC's credibility. Now, this is a key thing for us because while the IEC is obviously a flawed entity like all of us, it is by far and away one of the most reputable election management bodies anywhere in the world. The work that they do, the manner in which they do it, and how the elections are run are certainly shining beacons of how to run a democratic state, far better than anything in overwhelming majority of anywhere else in the world that is even a semi-democratic state. And I'm emphasizing this point because it's fine to critique the IEC, and indeed, if they do things that are inappropriate, if they're involved in corruption or misdeeds or whatever, we can and must expose those rigorously. But equally, simply attacking, undermining, and targeting the IEC because you are trying to, for your own political ends, undermines democracy. And if your media is part and parcel of that, you're necessarily undermining the elections, and you're also undermining media's credibility as a whole. So when media, we know this, when news organizations undermine one other news organization, they're undermining all news organizations because the public put us all into the same basket, right? You make one error that damages your credibility. It's not just your credibility, it's the credibility of all news organizations. And similarly, when you undermine the institutions that are upholding democratic principles and our rights, it has the same effect. So, what is PI? Let me just minimize this so that you can see the whole screen, I hope. Doesn't want to minimize. So PI is effectively a mechanism to promote better communication, collaboration, and coordination across different stakeholder groups, working across election-related mis and disinformation. So it came out of an elections workshop we had just after the national elections in 2024. And there were a whole lot of organizations, and the bonus of this is that it establishes a coordinated line to the IEC. The IEC have officially endorsed PI as the mechanism for people to encourage them to support it and join it. And as an example, we've got organizations like CINIA, which is the Center for Information Integrity in Africa, which is being run out of Stellenbosch by Herman Wasserman and co. There's Murmur Intelligence, which do social media analysis. And already we are in the process of starting up 2 subcommittees, one looking at the various research things that are taking place, because there are a whole lot of members of PI who are doing research on and around elections, either looking at social media analysis or looking at other elements of it. And then there's another subcommittee that we're looking at establishing now, where one of the other very clever nerd types is looking at LLMs, so large language models, and what they're doing and how they're going to impact the elections. Africa Check, for example, is as a steering committee member of PI, is there, and of course previously they would share and liaise with a network of news organizations, which is why there's a benefit for you in joining PI. And effectively what it is it provides a mechanism where you'll be able to get exposed to whatever alerts are out there. If there's new research coming out, you'll see it. If organizations are doing particular things, if they're hosting events, all of the sorts of things, it's just effectively acting as a kind of common repository and resource sharing entity that will allow us all to have a much better idea of what's actually going on, and hopefully then that way ensure that we can have a better impact collectively and also avoid duplication and those kinds of things. So this is why it's there. We are hoping that very many AIP members will be joining up to this as well, because of course you'll get the bonus of having access to all of this additional information. And similarly, if you see things or you can bring it to the attention of the PI group, there'll be other experts there who want to research and analyze. So there should be all various forms and types of information and systems to help you and make your lives a little bit better. So the structure of PI, there's the secretariat, which we'll use are playing that role, just in order, that means we're giving it space on a website and we're collecting it. And I've got one of my colleagues is coordinating PI. So when you join up, she'll be the one, her name is Tino Tenda, she'll be the one who will get in touch with you. And then there's the steering committee, which is just responsible for the general governance and the oversight of it. But then we've got the principal and coalition, the principal and associate members. So the reason we've got two different kinds of members is that principal members are people that are working directly in and on issues of information integrity. So, for example, if you're a news organization, this is obviously core to your work, so you'd be a principal coalition member where the work that you do directly contributes to information integrity. So if you're seeing stories on it, if you're doing those sorts of things, you can share them around on Pi, and others will then also be exposed to that work and those thoughts, etc. And you'll also get access to the various resources and research that's coming out from the other members of Pi. We then have associate members, and these are people who have a fundamental role to play in information integrity, but we also need to make sure that we're effectively keeping them at an arm's length, right? This would include, for example, some of the online platforms themselves, because they need to know what's happening so that they can take action. They don't need to be involved in some of the more sensitive discussions that we're having as principal members around what kind of research is being done, what people are finding, if we're trying to hold platforms accountable and seeing what they're doing. Obviously they wouldn't be there. Similarly, thinged entities like ICASA or the Film Publications Board, who have a role to play around some of these areas, can be associate members. So it means that they're there and they can be part of the information sharing, but they wouldn't, for example, be part of the ad hoc working groups or some of the other particular elements of the Pi activities. Quite what all of them are, I don't know yet, because we're going to design this. We've got the idea around it, we're helping to coordinate. So if you've got an idea that you say, oh, I think it would be really good for there to be a working group on what community and small commercial media are seeing, lovely, set it up. All you have to do is say, we want to set up that subcommittee, and then you get people together and you meet online and you share what information you think is worth sharing. As I've said, we've already got two of those, one looking at LLMs and one looking at research that's already being undertaken. The research is being coordinated by Yosabel from Cinia, and the other one I'm hoping will be coordinated by Aldu from Merman Intelligence. So that's Pi in a nutshell in terms of what it looks like, how it operates, what its structure is. There's obviously no cost to joining these things. It is a matter of filling in the form and saying you agree to the kind of principles around free, fair elections, etc. And they're all set out on that form. And then you'll be added to some groups, and then we'll be calling meetings and sharing information so that you can all be kept informed. Here are the underlying principles: a commitment to the rights and values in the Constitution. If you've got some expertise in electoral and information integrity, you're independent, you've exercised reasonable care, skill and diligence. We operate with mutual respect, fairness, good faith and openness. There's regular participation and contribution, so you can't just be there and say you're part of it and then not ever pitch up or not ever make comments or not add anything. That's your only thing. Because it's a network, you need to participate and engage, and if you don't, then you don't need to be part of it. It's fine. And obviously you can't be there if there's a conflict of interest, so you can't be a political party or be an office bearer of any political party. And that pretty much is what is contained in Pi. So again, I would encourage you to just take a screen grab now, or open your phone and take in a QR code and join up to Pi. Okay, are there any questions, comments about Pi at this point, or are you happy for me to continue on to the next section of the presentation?
Colleagues, any quick questions around Pi before William continues? Yes, I see Anton's hand is up. Anton, please go ahead.
Hi, William. A couple of questions. Maybe you sort of address them later, but let me ask them in any case. I think a lot of the publishers are quite excited about getting information, but it needs to be localized information. how do you intend filtering that information to publishers? And then I'm also going to jump to the technology part. In the last month or so, we've done a lot to try and automatically pull feed into our websites. We've done it with Groundup, and last week I've done it with Africa Check as well. Basically, automatically tapping into that feed and filtering what we think is relevant and displaying it. It saves us the time to have someone sort of go through the copy, edit it. It just pulls it in automatically. But now the problem with Africa Check is they've got no RSS feed. So whereas it's actually quite difficult to get that. So the question is, do you look at things like that in terms of providing the content and making it easier for publishers with each with their own niche to get that information and use it? And also going forward with the elections coming up. Yes, I think all of us would love to carry that type of stories, but we're only interested in certain ones. And if it's an automated process, yes, that would help. Then the second question is slightly different, because you mentioned people like ICASA being sort of part of that. This making a lot of noise.
Sorry, I'll switch off my mic.
Might be. Anyway, I hope you can still hear me. The second question is about institutions like ICASA. Can it be a two-way street? Because like a personal experience, for more than a month now, I've been trying to get information from ICASA about community radio stations, especially here, which they seemingly are not sort of monitoring, or there's no adherence. ICASA, this is the second time we tried to get information. They don't respond. So we went to the extent of serving a fire on them, which they also ignored. And now the time has lapsed. They still have not responded to that. Can we also take these type of issues to you and say, okay, can you assist with dealing with ICASA, who simply like not really a lot of respect for fire legislation? I think I'll stop there. Thanks, William.
Thanks, Anton. That's an excellent question. So just I'll start with the second one on ICASA. Sure. I mean, yeah, they are an institution that is so critical, and I love them in many respects, but they are also an institution that drives us completely around the bend because of the way that they are so poor in the way they communicate. They haven't signed up yet to Pi. I will be inviting them to do so. When they are, then yes, certainly, there's nothing from stopping us, especially if we can tie it to, as long as we can tie it to the elections, there's nothing stopping us from asking them about those. I'm very happy to try and engage with you separately outside of this to find out what it is you're trying to get from them and see if there's other contacts that we can try and push and prod to get the kind of information you're looking at. But you know, certainly if they are coming on board, they've got to sign on to the same kind of principles. Otherwise, they can't just be there and get all that nice stuff from people and then not contribute themselves. So that may well be a positive element. On the tech side, thanks. Those are excellent suggestions in terms of making sure that their feeds. I'll chat to the colleagues at Africa Check about that. And certainly the one of the things that I'm going to share with you about getting localized information, I hope will answer that, but we will make sure that those who have the means and resources to provide feeds, make those available to members of Pi, precisely so that you can then automate as far as possible those, because I appreciate that any of the sort of things we're suggesting, you know, are either an additional burden on time, or you need it to be there so that it can be relevant and easily applied to your own scenario. But when I've done the next section, then hopefully that should answer some of those questions. So I'm going to move on unless there's something else.
Yeah, I think let's move on. Thanks.
Okay. So what I'm going to do here is just give you a quick overview of all of the things that we are going to be doing. So we monitor elections. That's why we started. We'll be monitoring at least 80, if not more, depending on how much money we get to do these things. If we monitor any of your publications, as an example, it means that we have someone in the community that is there and monitors that media, which means that if it's in an African language, they're first language speakers and they monitor it in our system. We'll then be providing media analysis reports based on the monitoring that we provide. There'll be an elections dashboard that'll provide information on what we're finding around elections. You'll be able to go in and see how different media are performing in relation to how they're covering things. And we then take all of this information and we roll it up into a media performance review. And we did the first one of these in 2024. And effectively, we're looking at saying everyone acknowledges that the media fulfill an absolutely critical role in ensuring free, fair, and credible elections. What isn't there is any kind of means or structure that assesses how this has happened. So we did this for the first time in 2024. We presented the reports to the IEC to say this is how the media performed. These are the ways in which we think that they contributed to free, fair, and credible elections. So we'll be producing that sort of thing again. The second one is around some of the other elements. So we'll be doing social media monitoring. This is tracking election-related trends and discourses. There's Padre, which is been running now for some time, which is the political ad repository. And this, effectively, what we're doing is we're looking at all of the adverts that are that Meta and Google have on their systems. So these are coming directly from Meta and Google, and we put them up on a dashboard that you can then go and search. And we also provide data that they give us, so it's not always complete, around how much money the different political parties, etc., are spending on their political advertising. So it's useful if you're trying to get a sense of how political advertising is used. We then have Ad Compare, which is a simple WhatsApp service. You see an advert on any of the social media platforms. You send that advert to the WhatsApp system. It checks it against the repository on Padre, and it comes back and it says, yes, this is real, or no, it isn't. This is very useful if, for example, you see a political. We had one last year where one of the people uploaded an advert of a political party that was showing that if you voted, if you registered to vote and said you were going to vote for them, you might win a car. And we all thought this was far too ridiculous to actually be real. Turns out it was a real advert and not actually some disinformation undermining the party, but we just thought it was fundamentally idiotic. The other thing that is occurring is that there's a framework of cooperation, not of operation, sorry, I mistyped that, and that is essentially a framework that sets out the platform's commitments to working with the IEC and contributing and fighting information, things that undermine information integrity. So those are the general things. The things that speak, I think, specifically to you and where we think there's additional value for you in it outside of Pi. So we're in the process of building, and I'll give you a brief demonstration of this shortly, which is what we find is that very often there's no mechanism to actually track what local politicians are promising ahead of elections. If they are saying they're going to do certain things, they might say that, they might make that claim, but we then don't have any way of following up on that. So what we are proposing this time is, for as many areas as we can, is to track what the ward candidates are actually saying on their social media platforms. In doing that, we would then be able to see what they are saying. If they make promises, we'll see what promises they're making, what areas they relate to. And then the idea is that we take all of these things and we put them into a dashboard that all you need to do is have the link to that, and it'll load automatically on your site wherever you choose to put it. So you can have a dashboard that's relevant for the awards and areas that you do, and in your area and in your specific sort of footprint, you'll be able to see what the various award candidates are promising in that place. Now, we're doing this because we're wanting to start to hold them accountable, but we're also hoping that this will start to serve as a means of engaging with audiences on some of these issues directly, to say, okay, the William Byrd Party is promising us X and Y and Z and a new library and a new facility, and they're going to do these things. They're going to promise, they've been promising to fix this public works access issue, or these roads, or whatever the issue is that the William Byrd Party promises you. You'll then be able to see that, and you can then invite your readers or your audiences to say, what are the things that you think they should actually be promising the various, what are the top 5 issues that we actually need addressed in our area? What are the things that we want them to be promising? And you can match that against what the candidates are actually promising. Now, because you do this on social media and we track it, it means that once the elections have come and gone, and you've still got access to that dashboard, it means you can then start to say, oh, look, ahead of the elections, these and these candidates promised this, they're now in power, and they promised us these things. We now have a mechanism to try and hold them to account for whatever it is that they have promised. So that's that particular tool, and I'll show you what that, it's a vaguely functional, it's just a mini prototype that we've built to show you what that looks like. Then there's Real 411, that's the official platform for reporting online harms. Mis and disinformation, harassment, whether it's of journalists or of party members, incitement to violence, which we think may come up more often because of the Afrophobic approach of many of the political parties, and then hate speech as well, instances like that. And that is a quick mechanism that if you see something, in our record time, it's we've got it down to about 45 minutes, where someone sees something on the social media platform, they report it, it gets reviewed, and an outcome is produced, and we're then able to get the platform to act on that. And from that coming in to that action is 45 minutes. It integrates with the IEC's own complaints platform, so if those things happen there, the IEC knows about it. We also have a media attack reporter system, which is called Mars, where we are tracking attacks against our journalists online, and then we'll be producing disinformation reports. In addition to that, there's the stuff that we're hoping to do with you, and I'd be keen to get your feedback on whether these are the kinds of training workshops that would be useful for you, where it's not just looking at reporting on elections, but looking at what to do when certain things go wrong. So looking at kind of red teaming events where we set up scenarios, bring in experts who can help you deal with the kinds of things that may likely go wrong. What happens when a particular claim is made? The IEC in this thing has decided to withdraw, or they've opened all the ballot boxes. How do you respond to that? What are the best ways of dealing with it? How do you verify all of those sorts of things? Then we did this in 2024, and we were really excited about this. It was a small media collaboration where there were certain sort of grants. People were invited to make pitches, and we were able to fund, I can't remember exactly the amount now, maybe 10 to 14 of those, and they got the entity got an amount of a relatively small amount of money to then go and produce that kind of story that looked at particular elections issues, and we're hoping that we'll be able to repeat that again this year, because we thought, we saw the content that some of the members produced and was really cool. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is a micro-payment system, but I want to show you the Election Watch demo just before I show you that. So let me just go there. I have to stop sharing. Oh no, not stop sharing. What? Sorry, I meant to escape my presentation, not stop sharing. So wait, I'll come back and share with you now. Share. Hold on a second again, everyone. Sorry, apologies. Can you see my screen again? I hope so.
Sorry, yes, yes.
Okay, so on our Moxie website, this is where the thing is you can read about Pi, but that's not why I brought you here. I brought you here to show you this. So what we are proposing would be to give you access to something like this, where you would be able to see the wards that your footprint of your title covers, and include those. And then once those are there, you'd start to go and see the number of candidates in that we're looking at, where they, what the promises they've been making, how many posts they've been making, and then you'd go and you'd then be able to show what some of those people, the kinds of promises that they are making. So who's the most audible, or who's making the most noise on social media, and what kind of things are they saying. So we will be using various techniques to try and track and understand what the various people are saying. Let me just show you, where was that? Okay, let's just open this. Sorry. As I said, it's a demo thing. You can see the candidates that we are tracking for. You'd be able to, it's not going to show me now, because I'm not logged in as a thing, but you can find, so your people that come to your platform, they'd be able to identify their ward, and it would then show them what the candidates in their specific ward are saying. In terms of the actual candidates, let's see, is this going to work now? The posts. Okay, yeah, this is what I wanted to show you. So essentially what you'd be able to see and reflect would be the posts that these various people have been making, and I'm not sure why this is a classic example of why you don't do live demos. Let's just try reload it, see if that works. Okay, I'm going to let it load, but in essence, hopefully when this comes up, you'll start to see the kinds of things that ward candidates have been saying in the area. And this is all dummy data. It's not live or real. This is just, as I said, this is just a demo model of what you would start to see. So you'd be able to filter by whether the things that they're saying are flagged as a promise. You'd then be able to filter by the various political parties that are in your area, or you'd be able to filter it by the candidates that you know are the ones that are there. And again, this dashboard we would then just make available to you, that you could then insert on your site somewhere, so that you could reflect to your audiences what the various candidates are saying, what the kinds of things are that they're promising, and you'll then be able to filter that into, I'm not sure why this is not showing me all of this menu here. Sorry, apologies. You'd be able to see, let's try to see if this page works. There you go. So here you can see which party's been making the most promises in your particular set of wards. So it'll amalgamate all of those. Let's say you're covering those 5 wards that are there. It'll amalgamate all of those. You'll then be able to see which person has been making the most kinds of promises. And if I click on them, okay, yeah, that didn't work because this is a demo. You'd be able to see what those actual promises are. You can then see the kinds of issues that they are talking about based on the content of the things they're posting. And you'd be able to then go and see which one is making the most noise in which different province. So it starts to give you an idea of what those people are saying. On the candidates page, which I haven't got loading now because I haven't entered the ward that I'm in, you'll be able to go in and learn about who the candidates actually are in the area that you are in. So it'll give you a breakdown of this is candidate William Bird, this is what we know about him, these are the wards that he's standing in, and these are his these are his most recent posts. So we're hoping that by doing that, you'll start to be able to provide your audiences with information that they would come to your platform to see, to go, okay, who are the parties, what are the promises, and then obviously you can use that to generate your own additional content as you see fit. So this is outside of the feed. This is a separate proposed dashboard that if you are keen and excited by this, we'd be able to provide that to you. Now, why this links to that last point I started to make on the presentation about micropayments is when we look at one of the critical mechanisms for news organizations these days to be sustainable is that you go a subscription model. I mean, you know all of these things, but we found a mechanism that is WhatsApp based. Wait, there's the slide there, sorry. And effectively it's WhatsApp based and it allows for small payments. So for example, you could be offering and encouraging people to submit their images of things around elections, and in return for that they may win a prize if you select their image of 10 Rand, 5 Rand, whatever the kinds of amounts are that you think are appropriate for your audiences and your areas. Similarly, if you are running a competition and you have something, people can pay 5 Rand to enter, or 2.50 Rand, or whatever the amount is that you set, and they would pay that using the WhatsApp system, and it would then reflect in your account. The beauty of this particular mechanism is that if I, William Bird, pay you, Anton, I pay 2.50 Rand to enter the elections promises competition, and there's a prize that one of the locals supports, of whatever that might be. If I pay that 2.50 Rand, you get 2.50 Rand in your bank account, and I pay 2.50 Rand. So there's no loss on the thing. In other words, there's no bank fee exchange here. If I pay 2.50 Rand, you get 2.50 Rand. And similarly, if you say, okay, we're going to give a 5 Rand thing to whoever gives us the best image of the day, or shares a story idea, or shares something that we are asking about. And I mean, this is where you can use whatever the techniques and systems are in your own areas, and whatever jingles your bells, you'll be able to then make those micropayments in return. This is entirely a wild experiment. We have no idea if this will work and build real sustainability, but we think that doing it around elections, linking it to candidate promises, linking it to the big issues that are there, and with the brilliant creativity that most of you display, we should be able to find a mechanism for people for there to be enough uptake of this. And once there is enough uptake and people start using it, you then start to have a very real means of both generating income and showing people that there's a fair value exchange for the kind of content that you're producing. And in that way, hopefully start to build up a fairly consistent revenue stream for all of your news organizations. Okay, I've whizzed through all of that, and we are nearly at the hour. So I'm going to stop talking now, and we can discuss.
Great. So colleagues, the floor is open for questions. I have to say I'm quite excited by your proposals. So maybe let me dive in very quickly. I mean, I like the idea of your workshops, and particularly with kind of, mini case studies where you look at real life possibilities of things happening during elections and how you'd cover that. I think that's very interesting. I also think it's interesting because my understanding is that you have done research on community media and the way that community media has covered elections. And what you've picked up is certain kind of best practices, things that we could do better and differently. And so I'm thinking that we should really have a bit of a deep dive, some thinking around potential specific training and support around elections coverage for community media. So I think that's really exciting. And I agree with you. I think when we did that project before where we paid like micro grants, I think it was 5,000 Rand for people to cover election stories and then to run them in their publications and then on their social media, etc., was quite exciting. So, but yeah, colleagues, over to you. Those are just my comments on William's presentation. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, Anton, please go ahead.
Sorry for me sort of talking a lot, but if the others are quiet, I'll use this opportunity. We've got a couple of questions. I find it fascinating what you're doing, but I'm trying to be more practical. How do you plan to collect the information, for instance, on the promises of the candidates? Because, I mean, that's a massive undertaking. I mean, if you look at the area that we serve, you talk about a couple of hundred candidates. Now, previously, I mean, in previous elections, we tried to just get information on them, and it's just it's like almost impossible to reach that. I mean, there were references to social media pages, so you assume that a lot of them are active on social media. Well, it's partly correct. They would be, but anyway, I'm just wondering about the practicalities around that and whether it would be useful to engage local publishers to say, okay, listen, for every whatever interview you can get, we're prepared to sort of pay you like a stipend or whatever. I mean, that's probably an option. On that, sort of linking into that, you talk about all the promises. For me, sort of as a potential voter, I would be more interested in the experience. I mean, all of them make promises, that's what politicians do. But what experience do they actually have? What are they doing in their professional capacity? Or do they, the intent sort of incorporating that information? And then my second question is like onto the next part. I'm intrigued by your micropayments models, but I do not understand that. How are you going to get money onto WhatsApp? I mean, I can understand Apple Pay and Google Pay, but I haven't encountered WhatsApp before. And how do you actually manage to have a zero transaction fee? I mean, currently that's a huge problem. If you use PayFast or any of those, when you talk, it's 2.53 up to 7% on that. So I'd like to sort of hear more about the implementation of that. Thanks.
Yeah, William, please go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, just struggling to unmute. Okay, so it's a big exercise. So the IEC are estimating, so the last local elections they had about 80 to 90,000 candidates. They're anticipating 100,000 at least this for these local government elections, which is just a ridiculous amount when there are only around 10,000 wards. We know that the overwhelming majority of political party candidates are going to be very unhappy come elections results day. It is technically possible to track what all of them are saying, and we are only planning on doing that on social media, even though I know that many of them may not be active on there, but it's otherwise just too much of a logistical exercise to try and track what they say outside of those processes. I mean, we assume that wherever possible, news organizations can and do go and ask them for what particular claims they are making, or what they're hoping to promise us. I mean, I agree with you. They all promise things, but then we tend to forget this, and if we don't hold their feet to the fire, a month after the thing, and then hold their party's feet to the fire, or after it, then we can't really complain about not sticking to their bloody promises that they make to us. So the short answer is we are going to be using various tools to effectively scrape what the various candidates are saying. I very much doubt we're going to get the resources we need to do the whole country, so we're going to look at particular areas and a few pilot places to see if indeed this works, and if it yields the kind of value that we hope that it will yield. I was trying to get this my damn tool because I do have a demo of it, but what we've got for each candidate will be that it'll be who they are, and then it'll reflect whatever we can find on them online. So if it's William Byrd and you click on your candidate on that dashboard, you'll see, oh, this is William Byrd, and it'll say what wards I'm standing in. It'll also then say these are the most prominent or the top 5 kind of news pieces that we found about William Byrd, and you'll go, oh, William was involved in these and these corruption scandals, or William was fired from his last 3 jobs, and these and these things. In other words, it'll give you whatever we can find out about that person online, so that people can see, okay, this is the kind of person that we may be actually dealing with. So it'll provide a summary based on what we are able to find about that person using a few of the standard kind of searches, so that people will see and hopefully get a sense of who that particular candidate is and what they are doing. And then they will see below that, it'll show you what they actually are saying. And you can then look and say, okay, well, William Byrd looks like a nice guy, but actually, if I look at his social media posts, he keeps saying things that are fundamentally at odds with our area, or he's standing in my area, but his last 10 posts have been about a suburb in Cape Town, and I'm in Joburg. I don't know why this clown's talking about these things. Or he only talks about big politics issues, or he only talks about infighting. He's not talking about anything that's to do with the issues that are important to me in my area, because that's what the benefits of these things are. So that's how we're hoping this is going to work. I don't know, to be perfectly honest, I don't know, and we're not going to know until we actually start doing it and try. So if you are willing to participate, you'd be part of this as an experiment, and as we go along, you say, well, can we get this information instead, or I don't think this really works. And we'll use certain tools to help us identify where we think something is a promise or isn't a promise, and we start to sort of summarize or categorize those things using machine learning to try and build up a list of what those things are, and obviously you can then verify that or otherwise. So that's how we are intending on tracking what those various candidates are saying, and the kinds of promises that they're making, because I think that so much of the electioneering that we're going to see this year is going to be online posts, whether they are coming from TikTok or X or Meta, any of the Meta platforms, for example. The payments. So the way the payment system works is effectively you put money into effectively an e-wallet, and so if I put 10 Rand into that e-wallet, I've got 10 Rand e-credit. It's very much like a form of it's just a different form of a currency that is online that you then recognize, and this is a system that is currently being used by different providers to do micro payments in order to ensure that the people that are doing those payments aren't the ones that are paying the bank fees. The only time that those bank fees are levied, and this is the way that they make their money is when you actually go to withdraw it. So you would set up, for example, you would have access to your account, and you would then get credit on the system, or you'd put 100 Rand credit into that system. So if you want to pay out to your audience members, you say, okay, I want to give William and his 5 friends who've each given us great pictures the 5 Rand or 2.50 each. You just have that, you have their WhatsApp numbers, and you send it across through WhatsApp. They get that, so they have that then as a credit, which they can then use to exchange or send back to you as 2.50 if they want to then enter a competition or whatever, right? So if they then go to draw that money, that would then be when the bank charges are there. But outside of that, it acts as real money that they can then use to spend and use on different services. And if this mechanism takes off as a payment system, they would be able to use it across all sorts of things. They're organizing, the one company that's running this is doing it with spaza shops and all sorts of things. So it would have value well beyond just that. Just in other words, not just an exchange with you. And the way that they can pay that is they would, they'd go to your site or onto your WhatsApp channel or a WhatsApp number, and you can send them either a QR code or you send them the link on their WhatsApp, and they then go into that and they do that exchange using WhatsApp. The biggest benefit to this, certainly of the other various micropayment systems we've seen, is that I can do a payment of 2.50 Rand, you get 2.50 Rand, and I'm not being charged 50 cents or 2 Rand extra on top of that to make that payment. I mean, I suspect if people are keen on this and keen to experiment with this, again, I don't know if this will work. We're hoping it might. I think that there's a real opportunity here for us to sort of set that up as a meaningful value exchange for news. Then what we would do, if you're keen, is we'll then arrange an additional session with those that are wanting to experiment with these things, and then we'll go through and do a lot more of a deeper planning dive on and explain to you exactly how this works and show you a demonstration of it, etc., etc. Thanks. Over.
Thanks so much, William. I mean, I see that we are actually at 11 o'clock. Just wanting to talk about, that micropayment system. I mean, what we could do, William, is we could, if we put together a kind of blurb about what it is, we could send it out to all our members and see whether anybody was interested in participating in a kind of pilot around it.
Cool.
So then we'd send that message out, see who was interested, and then organize a particular workshop with those particular publishers. So I think that's an interesting one. Great.
So this is, I mean, just as I've said, this is, these things we haven't built yet. We are hoping, if we get the money that we've applied for from various donors, to see if we can do this. But I wanted to share with you, these are our plans for how we would like to implement these things, particularly like the promise tracker and things that are making elections, social media content on that level relevant for you and your audiences. And it also gives you a means to start to track the promises, so that's come December holidays and January, when we come back from voting and everyone's fresh, you can say, hey, this is what the winners promised us. How are we going to start to make sure that we hold them to account? You can then incentivize people to, send we'll pay 2.50 for the best letter that you're going to send to the local ward candidate, or the best mechanism you can help us find to make sure that they adhere to it. Or if you send in 25 PIE applications, we'll pay you 10 Rand or something. So I think that there's all sorts of mechanisms that we can then use to sort of build on that value exchange. But thanks everyone for your time. I'm realizing I'm over and I've got a dash as well.
All right, colleagues, so I don't see any further hands. So thank you, William. Thank you so much. We will follow up on this one. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your time, colleagues, for joining. And then do send your presentation, William. We'll send it out to everybody.
Cool.
Super.
And then please just go and join the sign up to Pi. I'm just going to put the link in the chat very quickly here.
Super.
There, that's the one from our website. That's there. It's in the chat.
Lovely stuff.
Cool. There you go.
All right.
I've shared it. Thanks, Anton.
Thanks
Everyone.
everybody. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.